Okay, can y'all hear in the back? Okay, good deal. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is look around, because chances are the person sitting next to you has not taken their primary content exam, which means they're not going into clinical teaching with you. Over half of the people in this room have not done what they need to do to meet the May 5th deadline.
Okay, so the reason I'm standing here, the deadline's May 5th. You've had since September. It is not an excused absence from your senior methods class, from your field, from a professional development day to take your exam. You've had since September. This is February. May 5th is the deadline. There's no exceptions. If it's not passed and you're not cleared May 5th, you will not clinical teach in the fall.
And y'all, there's no wiggle room. We held 12 students back this semester because they didn't pass or meet the deadline. Don't be one of those folks. Okay, so now that we got that out of the way, question? Yes.
So if we pass our content exam, do we need to do anything after that, or do you get like a notification from the state saying we passed?
If you took your content exam and you got an email back with your score report, well, I mean, if you passed and got a score back, a passing score, then you're good. What? Oh, I thought he said it was on. It is on. Oh, now it is. Here we go. Maybe. I've got a green light. Am I in the wrong spot? Oh, there we go. Okay. So the last couple of things you guys are going to need to do is take your PPR exam, do your fingerprinting, and apply for certification. All of these things need to happen between now and graduation. The first thing you need to do is go back to the MyCHD page, and you're going to go to the Pedagogy and Professional Responsibilities exam. It's a content exam. It's the PPR exam form, just like your content exam form. Please fill this form out before March 15th. You don't have to test by March 15th, but at least fill this form out. You're going to fill the form out, and it's just like your content exam. You give me 24 to 48 hours to upload it into your ETS account, and then you can register. The PPR exam has to be taken before you can get certified. Yes.
What was the website?
This is MyCHD. The same place you went before. It's mychd.tamu.edu. The PPR exam can be taken at any point after you finish your senior methods. So you guys have this summer, and you'll have all through clinical teaching to take it. I recommend that you take advantage of the summer and get the test over with so that you're not trying to take a test while you're clinical teaching. That's going to be a very busy semester. So let's just knock it out before then. The next things that you're going to have to do are all going to be underneath the Apply for Certification tab, which is at the top of the MyCHD page. Once you get to that, this is what you're going to see. Step 1 is a certification information form. This is used for several things, the first of which is for clearance for certification. You can graduate, pass all your tests, and apply for certification, but if you didn't fill out this form, you're not getting certified. I also use this form to create your letter of intent. I will email you a letter after October 15th if you have filled out this form by then. That certification information form, you can fill it out today. The only thing is, I need an email address that is not your A&M email. So give me a Gmail, a Yahoo, something else. Whatever email you put on there is where I'm going to send your letter of intent. This letter is going to come to you, and it's going to say that you are a student at A&M. You're currently enrolled and completing the requirements for certification. We anticipate that you're going to graduate in December and that you will be certified upon graduation. You will use this when you start applying for jobs. You will attach this to your application. This will show a school district that A, no, I'm not certified yet, but I will be. And B, that you're in good standing with the university. If you don't have this form filled out by October 15th, you're not getting a letter until probably November. On October 15th, I'm running a list of everybody whose form is completed, and those are the letters I start writing first. It takes me a while. After that, I will go back and check for anybody that filled it out after October 15th. Please don't email me on October 16th and ask for this letter, because I'm working on it. I'll get it to you as quick as I can. And again, you have to have that form filled out for final clearance. Any questions about this form or the letter of intent? Okay. So you'll go back to this apply for certification again as you get closer to graduation. Starting November 15th, if you have passed all of your exams, including your PPR, you can apply for certification. On the website, there is a link that will walk you through step by step on how to fill that out. You will pay a $78 fee to the state. That is your application fee. And you will also complete your fingerprinting. Now, many of you have probably been fingerprinted because you've worked in the schools, after school, daycares, anything like that. And you may have to get fingerprinted prior to clinical teaching. If you think that your fingerprints are already on file with TEA, don't pay this fee yet. Call them and ask them. I can't do it for you. I can't see it. So you have to call them and say, hey, I was a substitute teacher, or I worked in cool after school. This is my name. This is my social security number. Can you check and see if you already have my fingerprints? If they do, you just saved yourself $50. If they don't, you will have to follow the steps on the fingerprinting page to get your fingerprints done. So you'll pay the $49 to the state, and then you'll get an email from them. Let's see, here we go. $39.50 to the state, and then you're going to get an email from the state. It's called a Fast Pass. That's going to have all of the instructions on how you need to go about arranging an appointment to have your fingerprints done. Then when you show up to get them done, you're going to have to pay another $10. Okay, so let's go back to the application. You're paying it says 77 on here, it's actually 78 for your application. If you are core subjects, you're going to put core subjects and ESL if you've passed it. You only have to pay the fee one time for all the contents, and PPR is not a content, so you don't have to put PPR on here. If you are 4 through 8 and you took the ESL, you can include it. If you're 4 through 8 and you took the core subjects, you cannot include it, right? Remember we talked about that in junior methods. Any questions about that? Yes.
Just clarify. So 4 through 8, I passed my 4 through 8 exam. I passed my ESL. I passed the EC through 6. But I can only put 4 through 8 and ESL on this application.
Right. So his question was he's 4 through 8. He passed 4 through 8 ESL and core subjects, but he can only apply for 4 through 8 and ESL. And that's because, remember we talked about the state only allows us to certify you in the areas that we trained you. We didn't train you based on your degree in early childhood through 6th grade. We gave you the privilege of being able to take the test early to prove to districts that you're qualified. So once, if you're in that same situation, once your application is approved by TEA, which is usually a week after graduation, you go back in, you have to pay the $77 again, but it automatically puts that core subjects on there. So you're basically going back in and adding that test that you've already passed. Yes, ma'am. No, no one is required to take the ESL. However, it's like a gold star on an application. Many districts won't even look at your application without ESL. Any other questions about what you can get certified with? Okay. Oh, one other thing. When you apply for certification, you're going to have to fill out an exit survey. This survey is going to ask, it's a state survey. And the state is asking you, how did we at Texas A&M do? Did we teach you to teach English language learners? Did we? Yeah. Did we teach you to teach with technology? Yeah. Did we teach you to teach students with special needs? Yes. They're also going to want to know, did your supervisor come by and see you? Did you get the help you needed? Were you prepared to enter the classroom? This is important, guys, because this is how we are accredited with the state. This is part of our accreditation process. So we want you to be honest, but we also want you to remember that we did teach you all those things. Sometimes you forget, but just remember. Okay. Final thing for me, once you guys graduate, I can't start your certification until I can see that your degrees have been conferred in Howdy. You're going to graduate on a Friday. I will see your degree is conferred either Tuesday or Wednesday after graduation. You're graduating in December. That means by the time I see your degree has been conferred, it's the week of Christmas. And the university is closing in a couple days. I always get them done before I leave for Christmas break. But if I get to your name and you haven't filled out an application, or you didn't complete your certification form, or you haven't paid for your fingerprinting, if you are missing anything, I am skipping you and moving on to the next person in line. Because it is a manual process. I go through every one. So that's a lot of folks for me to deal with in a very short period of time. If that's the case, and you look on January 1st and you're not certified, you probably need to go back through your checklist and see what you forgot, because there's probably something out there. I'll catch you when I get back after the holidays, though. Please don't email me the week before graduation and say, I have a job offer at Houston ISD and they want me to ask you to certify me early. I'm going to say no. They know better. It's against the law. You cannot be certified until your degree is conferred. Any questions? Okay, so just because you graduate doesn't mean you're getting certified. Obviously, everybody knows that. And once you have gotten certified, once your certificate is in your TEAL account and it shows that you are certified for whatever it is, if you decide you want to teach another content, so if you're 4 through 8 and you want to take the high school level, if you're EC through 6 and you want to take art or PE, you can go back and take any test that the state offers. You simply go to your ETS account, register for the test. Once you pass it, you go back to your TEAL account, you pay $78, and you add it back in. You don't need to have any permissions from me. Nobody's going to want to see your transcript. Nobody's going to ask any questions. So, how can I, yes, sir. Oh, yes. So are you a Aggie Teach student? Okay. So you guys are going to graduate in May and clinical teach in the fall? Okay. In your case, your degree will already be conferred. So once you've completed clinical teaching and I have a grade that you've passed, I can go ahead and certify you. That's all. Yeah, but grades aren't going to be in until the week of graduation anyway, but you'll likely be done. You'll likely be on the top of my list because I can start on you guys on Tuesday or Wednesday before graduation as opposed to a week after. Any other questions? Okay, so how do I study for PPR? We recommend you still use Certified Teacher. Y'all, that's one of the best tools. You can use this code, this promo code again, and it'll get you access for $25, I think. Also, you already have access to T-Cert. That's the program through Tarleton. That PPR is phenomenal. Take advantage of that when it's free as well. And then there's always on the ETS website, you can download the free practice test there. You should have gotten an email from me about the practice test that I'm doing on Saturdays. You can always come in and take the PPR then. If you've already passed your primary content exam, but you want to work on an ESL or the core subjects, you can come take those then too. Okay, any questions? If you think of anything between now and then, shoot me an email or come by and see me. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. This one? You will also get updates throughout clinical teaching. From the clinical teaching office, we try to remind you of all these steps. And like Ms. Parrish said, this PowerPoint will be available to you after all the makeups. Did you get what you needed off of here? Okay. All right, guys, I'm going to turn it over. Yes, I'll be at your meeting again in April, so we can address any other questions at that point. Okay, who's next? Here's Justin.
Howdy. That's you.
Yeah, he said we have to use it. He said we have to use it. Yeah.
Howdy. Howdy. Okay, is it working? Yes. Howdy. Where am I going? Oh, it's upside down. What do I know? We'll get there. All right. So what we've noticed is that half of you have yet to come in for advising. You need to do that. You will not get your teacher placements until you've come in for advising. And if you look at the schedule for next week, half of the advisors have got plenty of spots. So you need to go on today and set up an appointment to come in. Everybody in this room should either be one of my EC through 6th, 4th through 8th, Aggie Teach 7th through 12th, or University Studies 7th through 12th. If you're not one of those, raise your hand. That's what I thought. So everybody is required to come see one of my advisors. You need to do that ASAP. These are the guys right there. They're on the website. We see people Monday through Friday, specifically for appointments Monday through Thursday. We have walk-ins this morning. We don't have a lot of spots available. I don't want like 50 of you to come in this morning because you'll be waiting and waiting. So, but next week we've got lots of spots. Come by. You should know we're located in Heaton Hall. And of course, the website to sign up for an appointment is swan.tamu.edu/TLAC. So again, the advisors have lots of room. Come in ASAP. You're required to do that to get cleared, to get placement and everything else. All coursework is required to be completed prior to clinical teaching. There's no exceptions to that rule. So in other words, the reason for that is manyfold. I know some of you are in a 4+1 program. There may be some people going into a study abroad this semester, but other than that, there's no reason for you and no excuse for you to be taking anything with clinical teaching. I've spoken to quite a few of the Aggie Teach people and University Studies folks. that are scheduled to student teach in the fall. You know that some of you may have an opportunity to get a paid internship. My view of that is you do what you think is best for you. If you think staying in the field and clinical teaching for 65 days, 70 days, let's do 75. No, 70 days is more beneficial for you. Do that than signing a contract. So do whatever you think is best. Okay, simplistically, this is what you need to know. And you'll be told this again, but if you happen to be EC through 6th, you are going to be registering for TEFB 426. Student teaching, the minimum number of hours, regardless of your program, is 6. Texas A&M views it as full-time. How do you check that? By going to you go to the TAMU.edu website and type in verification of full-time enrollment. Verification of full-time enrollment. Now, just because Texas A&M views it as full-time, they also view co-ops and internships as full-time. If you are receiving federal money in the form of Pell Grants, Texas grants, subsidized loans, and unsubsidized loans, you may be required to register for 12 hours to get that monies. Or if you register for 6, it will be cut significantly. You need to talk with financial aid. So early childhood is TEFB 426. Middle grades is MEFB 497. We do allow Aggie Teach and University Studies as well to register for 6 hours. They'll be registering for MEFB 497. The good news is if those folks, Aggie Teach and University Studies, need an elective or need an additional 3 hours, TEFB 429 is actually 9 hours. You'll be charged for 9 hours though. And there's the TEAD 425 for anybody who needs 12 hours because of what I've mentioned. The important thing, if you are staying locally means within a 30-mile radius. What? 35-mile radius. If you change things, 35-mile radius. It's section 500. If you're going off at a distance, it's section 550. You'll be told this again when you come visit, but I'm giving you that information now. Verification of enrollment, that's what you type in when you go to the tamu.edu website. I would also visit with financial aid. This website might be good if you get a scholarship through a family friend, or if your dad works for a company that's giving you a scholarship and they want to verify it. That's what you should be printing off and forwarding to your parents. And of course, everyone's going to work on a master's degree, right? Okay. So does anybody have any questions with regard to what I've just talked about? Yes, ma'am. Yes. I'm going to give you, of course, I've been wrong so far. Most of it was like 65 days, now it's 70. It was 30, anyway, I would estimate $2,500. Compared to a regular semester, which is over 5,000. Okay, so if you register for 12 hours, it'll be about 5,000. If you register for 6 hours, it's about 2,500. So my advice, and I've talked to students about this, quite a few of you will be raising your, oh, I'm sorry. So I'm just joking. I'll get you in a second. Quite a few of you might be moving home. I always ask students, is your family going to charge you rent? Oh, Mr. Smith, no. Are they going to charge you for food? No, Mr. Smith, no. So I'm trying to save you money by saying if you can scrape up $2,500, there's no need for you to take out a loan again. Does that make sense? But if you get a substantial amount of money that is given to you through financial aid, you need to register for 12 hours. But it's about $2,500 for 6 hours and about $5 for 12, yes. Okay, so it's a lot more. How about that? I would say for the 6 hours, you'll be paying about $8,000. Because if the $5,000 I think is about 12,000. So is that, I think that's about right. So if you're paying out-of-state tuition for 12 hours, it's about $12,000. So it's more than twice, I believe. Yes, ma'am.
So there's absolutely no difference between the 6 hours
No.
and 12 hours?
You'll work twice as hard if you do 12. No. Everybody, no, thank you for asking. Everybody will do exactly the same thing. It's only for financial aid. That's the only reason that we allow that 12 hours. Yes, ma'am. I'm just estimating it. So I'm just estimating it because I used to say 2,400. Now I say 25 or 26. I'm not going to get specific about it because everyone's going to add in different things. So about 2,500. It's not going to be 3,000 if you include extra stuff. It shouldn't be. I'm not the fiscal office. Got it. Okay. 847-3337. That's the number for the office. Yes, ma'am.
Does that 12-hour credit apply also to students on GI Bill or veteran?
Actually, that's a good question. The VA, Dr. Clay Bassam, who does VA, he allows 6 hours. There's a difference between Hazelwood and GI Bill. I think for GI Bill, it's 6 hours. Hazelwood's something different in time. That's why you need to visit with that office. Yes, ma'am. What time is it? Midday? No, I'm just saying. What? Ma'am?
Do you know if you have to have 12 hours at Hazelwood?
I'm not quite sure. As I said, unfortunately, you have to check with them. I just want, the only thing I knew about is because I've been in touch with Dr. Clay Bassam, and 6 hours was fine as far as I know for the GI Bill. Yeah, and because it's a federal thing, probably as well. So, does that make sense? Yes, ma'am.
Is there a restriction on the number of students who register for the 12 hours?
No. Now, we've got as many spaces as needy as or as few as we have, whatever you want to do. Yes. Everyone, so please, immediately, now, if you're on your phone, before Mrs. Parrish starts, but don't interrupt her, or as soon as you leave here, you need to set up an appointment, who has yet to come in, and you need to knock it out. Because the dates, we're going to be busy the rest of the semester, so now's your time to set up an appointment to visit with my advisors and get it out of the way, because that's the only way you will be cleared to receive a placement for student teaching and cleared to be able to take tests and to be able to graduate. I wish you well, guys. You have a good one.
Clinical teaching.
Yeah, I know. Thank you. Clinical teaching.
Okay. Clinical teaching. My name is Kim Parrish, and from now until December, you will get emails regularly from our office. Most of the emails will come clinical-teaching@TAMU. You should have gotten some already. Just a reminder about this meeting. So you will see emails from us throughout this semester and then weekly throughout the clinical teaching semester. Mary Rontenay in the back is in our office as well. So the two of us get applications that you guys will start filling out in the next week, and then we will walk you all the way through this semester and through your clinical teaching semester. So I'm going to talk about placement options and the application process, what things it's going to ask and things you need to already be thinking about. While August seems far off, we are going to be reaching out to districts and asking for placements for you guys before spring break. We need to get our foot in the door in those districts. There's a lot of districts that we partner with that have students from other universities, and some of the districts have limited capacity to host clinical teachers, and so we get the ball rolling now so that we're the first ones, applications that are put into the districts. A lot of them will not actually make placements until May, so just because we get applications into them doesn't mean that we'll get information back, but we do get the ball rolling now so that we are prepared and have your names out there and requests out there early. As far as staying local and distance, Justin talked about that as far as what you register for, but local means anywhere within 35 miles of Bryan-College Station. And so we've been placing kids since the fall of 2012. The policy has been that we will start in the outlying districts first and make placements with all the qualified teachers where we have spots in the outlying districts, and then we work our way back into Bryan-College Station. Reason for that is because, as you guys know, this semester, all of y'all in senior methods are in Bryan and College Station. All of junior methods are in Bryan and College Station. So we have over 500 students alone just in Bryan College Station. So for clinical teaching, we do partner with the outlying districts so that there are more opportunities for junior and seniors to be in Bryan and College Station. If you are placed in an outlying district, there will be a minimum of 3 students in your district so that you would have an option to carpool should you wish. Districts that we currently partner with, no guarantees that these will be the same ones that have teachers interested, but within 35 miles, Anderson, Shiro, and Navasota, Caldwell, Franklin, Iola, Mumford, Northulch, and Snook are the ones that we currently have relationships with and have hosted students within the past year. And like I said, we'll tap into Bryan and College Station after we exhaust our options in those outlying districts. In the fall, some falls, everybody that stays local is in an outlying district. Some falls we have more students that request than we have spots, and so then we are placing some students in Bryan and College Station. In the spring, obviously that number changes because we have over 150 students local this spring, so there's not 150 spots in the outlying districts. But in the fall, usually there's about 40 or 50 of y'all, and some semesters we're able to get everybody placed out. Distance, that means anything outside of 35 miles, so Brenham would be considered distance, Madisonville, and then obviously Houston area, Austin area, Dallas-Fort Worth. We have over 80 partnering districts that have signed agreements with us, that we have working relationships with, that are very interested and willing and excited to host Aggies. So we obviously want to provide great students to them. So most of those districts I think are listed on the sheet. We have added a couple and we'll add a couple more probably before the applications due. But that kind of gives you an idea of all the districts that have signed an agreement with us in the last month that said yes, they want to host clinical teachers from A&M. So the distance districts, they get your application and they actually make placements based on your application and your request. So our office doesn't do the placement per se. So if you're going to Louisville ISD, huge district, you can request certain things, but just realize that the district office is deciding those placements, and it may be that they cluster all of the Aggies in the northwest part of the district. It may be that they cluster them all at 2 or 3 schools. That may be a decision that the district has. It may be driven by other universities having students there. It may be driven by the supervisor that's actually doing the supervision so that they're going to just a certain geographic area. So you have the option and the ability to request a certain school, but the district ultimately makes that decision. And there are times where you may be driving an hour to get to your school just because of traffic, because you're in Cy-Fair and it's a huge district, but our supervisor works in a certain area of the district. Does that make sense? So while we partner with districts, they try to accommodate, but sometimes factors above just your request dictate where you get placed within that district. There are times as well that certain districts reach capacity, and so you want to make sure that your application is in on time and that we send it on time, that you're really thorough in your responses. And we had a district this past semester that took 4 out of 7. Some of that's driven by mentor teacher availability, so your certification area could play a part, but you want to be really thorough on your application and the questions that are asked. It's kind of your first introduction and first chance that you have to make an impression to the district of who you are, your long-term goals, things like that, and I'll talk about the questions. But be very thoughtful and thorough in your application because it is the first impression you're giving to the district. A lot of times that's even shared with your mentor teacher. So just be thoughtful of that. But realize that there is potential that you will not get your first choice. so you need to have a backup plan. If you go off to Frisco ISD, we hire supervisors. They're trained, and they are paid by A&M. So you are getting supervised by a qualified, TEA qualified supervisor while they're not here in Bryan-College Station. That we train them, and they're held to the same expectations as if you stay local and have a supervisor in Bryan-College Station. If you are interested in a district and it's not on our list, and it is more than 35 miles from a district that is on the list, when this large meeting is over, you're going to need to stay. I'm going to go over kind of what options you have and what that looks like, but you have to stay today because I've got to get some information from you. So when this large meeting's over, if you're interested, we'll just come up to the front, hold on to your sign-in sheet, and we'll talk through what that process looks like. We assume that you guys are all doing great in senior methods and you're having a great semester and things are working out really well. If for some reason things go awry and you get put on a growth plan this semester, you will be required to stay local for clinical teaching. If you don't get some things done on time, if a district requires you to fill out criminal history paperwork, or some districts have their own application process, if you don't get those things done and then they're not able to place you, there's potential that you would get pulled back local. So just know that local is the default placement. If there are things that are not met to standard, that you could get pulled back to local for that. All right, what all impacts placements? Lots of things impact placements. Your certification in and of itself can impact where you're placed, because certain schools are able to accommodate a lot of core subjects kids, EC6 kids, but not as many middle grades kids for whatever reason. They don't have qualified teachers, things like that. The location of the supervisor, like I talked about, you may want to go to a really large district and your home may be in one area, but the supervisor is assigned to certain schools, so you may be driving to that school, even though that's not what you requested, but you are within the district. Mentor teacher availability. We require the mentor teachers that host you and work with you on a daily basis to have a minimum of 3 years. And so some schools are limited by that. Like I said, the district themselves makes decisions according to placements. So when they send us a list and say this is where students are placed, unless you're not in your certification, so if you're a 4.8 and you got put in a second grade, obviously we're going to go back and say you're 4.8. But if you got 7th grade math and you really wanted 8th grade science, you're going to stay in 7th grade math and make the best of it. Previous field placement, where you've been before, our goal is to give you as much exposure and experience to vary your placements. Your junior methods and senior methods placements should have been somewhat varied as far as grade level and subject. So for clinical teaching, I would highly encourage you to request a grade level that's different than what you've been in. Or if you're math science and you've only seen math, I would request science. Even if you think you really want to teach math, you're going to be more marketable if you've seen math and science. If you've seen both and you've seen a 6th grade and a 7th grade, then decide if you want to go younger or older and request maybe a 5th or an 8th. You will get an opportunity to make those requests, but like I said, remember there's potential that it'll be based on the qualified mentor teacher, and if they teach 7th grade math, you may end up in 7th grade math even though you wanted 8th. So there is some, you get to put your ideal, but there is some flexibility both within local and distance placement. Turning in all your forms in on time, that's another thing. Make sure if we have a deadline and ask you to have information into us, or taking your exams, getting in for advising, all of those things, if there's deadlines, make sure you're meeting them. You have to pass your primary content exam. So if you have not passed your content exam by May 5th, you won't be placed. So you'll get an email from us and say you're not moving into clinical teaching, and then you will not even have a placement for the fall, and then you'll be starting the process over again in September with us. There is an opportunity for you to write special considerations, anything special requests you want to make on the application, and those things are definitely looked at and considered. There's no guarantee, but you are given the opportunity to make any requests that you have. All right, the supervisors, like I talked about, the state now requires them to be trained through T-tests, which is what the teachers in the public schools are now being evaluated on. It's the equivalent of PDOS. Have you guys had any experience or exposure to T-tests yet in class? Okay, so your observation instrument that you are evaluated on as clinical teachers is also based on T-tests. So the supervisors have been trained in that mode of observation and evaluation. The application itself is going to ask for some really general information, just so we have contact information. Make sure that you include your A&M email address where it asks for email. When it asks for certification area, if you're secondary, be real specific. If you're a science composite versus if you're just biology, things like that, to make sure that you get placed appropriately. You're going to rank your preferences. So it's going to you're going to click what your certification is. And then you're going to rank your preferences as far as district. You're going to rank your top preferences. Okay? If you're going out away from Bryan-College Station, you're going to have a first, second, and third preference. We're going to obviously start with your first preference. We're going to send all the applications to people's first choice. But like I said, there's potential that your first choice district will not be able to accommodate your request. So then we will jump to your second district. Okay? If you only want one district and you can only go to one district in your mind and you think that's it and you put them for 1, 2, and 3, that's okay. But if they can't accommodate you, where does that mean you're going to default? Local. So I would just be really thoughtful on that when you're making a decision. If you're going home to the Dallas-Fort Worth area, there are 8 or 10 districts, within a pretty close, geographical area. So I would just be thoughtful when you're looking at all the options, what you put for your first, second, and third choice. For local, you're going to rank, I think, 1 through 8, all the different options. Same thing with that. If you are bound and determined to be in College Station ISD and you put College Station 1 through 8, and we don't put anybody in College Station, then we're going to put you wherever we have a spot. So it would be helpful if you would tell us, College Station's my first choice, but if I don't get that, this would be my next one. Okay? You're also going to rank your grade level preferences, a first and a second grade level. Don't put the grade level you're in right now for senior methods. So if you're currently in kinder and you love it, that's great, but you've seen kinder for a semester, you need to be more marketable, so you can pick pre-K, you can pick first if you haven't seen those, or pick a higher grade level. Okay? And then you're also going to have an opportunity to pick content. So for math science kids, you can pick math first, science second. If you're EC6, you can pick a content or you can pick self-contained. So you have some options there. No guarantees, but it definitely helps us or the districts in placing you, knowing what you would, in your ideal setting, where you would land. It asks for your zip code. So this can be helpful if you're going to a large district. If you're potentially the only one going there, and they're going to place you wherever you want, that may help in them knowing where you live within that district. No guarantees, but it could prove to be helpful. Special considerations. There is an open text box that just gives you the ability to write as much or as little as you would like based on request, things to be considered, whether it's our office or a district getting that information to know what you would like. Or requests that you have. Carpooling would be a perfect example. If there's somebody you want to carpool with, you would write that in special considerations. I would encourage you, the person you're asking to carpool with, to confirm that with them and have them write it down as well. You would be surprised. We get applications where one person's asked to carpool and the other person doesn't mention it at all. So we're left to decide, do they really want to carpool and one forgot, or they don't really want to carpool. So just be mindful if you do put something like that down. Any other questions about what would be considered special considerations? Yes. It will ask you that. It asks if you have relatives. You'll say yes or no. If you say yes, it'll ask what schools. You cannot be placed on a campus with an immediate relative. You can be in the district with one, but you can't be on the same campus. So if your mom is a kinder teacher at a school, don't ask to be placed at that same elementary school. Okay? Yes? Yes, I'm going to talk about that. But yes, absolutely. If there is a teacher that has requested you, that is where you would write that information. The school name, the teacher name, the grade level. Absolutely. Yes. 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 The reason there's multiple reasons, but it could put you and or your mother-in-law in a bad situation if there was an issue. And so it's just best if it's a small district and they're at the junior high, you could be at the elementary, or if they're at the elementary, you could be at the intermediate or junior high. So we've had situations where we've had to work that out, but it's best to not be. Yeah. Any other questions about special considerations? If you have no special ask, then just put none and move on. So there are 4 questions. This is what I was talking about earlier. This is going to be your first introduction. It's going to ask you your ideal classroom. It's going to ask you 3 words to describe you and your teaching style. It's going to ask where do you see yourself in a year and in 5 years. I would answer each question in at least a paragraph. I would revise, edit, proofread, have somebody else read it, make sure that you've been thoughtful and thorough and it all makes sense in what you're writing. Because like I said, the district's going to get a piece of paper and it's not going to have your picture. They're not going to know who you are, and they're going to read that and decide, is this somebody we want in our district and in one of our schools working with our kids. So just be thoughtful of that. Yes. I'll get to that. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions about that part of the application? Okay. All right. So I don't know if any of y'all have been on the TLAC website, but they changed the platform over the holidays, and it's a mess. So our application that was there is no longer there and has not been added to the new platform. So we created a Google Doc, a Google form for your application, which you guys I know are very familiar with. But when we tested it, the way it works, when you go through and you hit submit, it gives you a page that said thank you, and then it'll send you an email. But on that last page, it says edit your responses. There's a link you can go back and click on to go back to get to your form. If you save that, then you can go back and edit it however many times you want. If you submit it and you don't keep that and you want to change something and you can't get back to your edited version, then you would just have to start a new form. And we will pull whatever the most current form is. So if you fill out 10, so be it. We're going to pull the most current form. Does that make sense? Requesting a specific school and or teacher. You are more than welcome to request, like I said, perfect scenario. Just realize that it's up to the discretion of the district and or that campus on whether you get that. Can't be with an immediate relative. And then working, I know some of you may have no other option to work. It just cannot interfere with your clinical teaching expectations. So you can't commit to going to a job at 4 o'clock Monday, Wednesday, Friday, because your teacher may have something you need to stay and do. So if you have to work, I would advise finding something that gives you the option to work on the weekends so that you're not having to alter your schedule throughout the week for clinical teaching. The first day of clinical teaching for you guys, 2-week difference probably. Some schools are starting as early as August 13th. So if the district you request and are placed in starts on August 13th with kids, you're there August 13th off and running. Because the plan and the intent is for you to see the first day with kids in the class. Okay? Some schools start as late, I think, as August 27th, so that second, 2 weeks later. Most of the district calendars have been approved and are out for you to review. So if you're interested and want to know the districts you're considering, you can look on their website. Most of the districts have approved calendars for next school year. So you can look at that. But you will start officially the first day with students in the classroom. Should you go the week before during professional development and staff work day? And yes, absolutely. As much as you're invited and encouraged to go, if your teacher's going to spend some time in his classroom getting things ready, should you be there to help? as much as you're able to, yes. One, it's good first impression, and two, it gives you the most real world experience of what it's going to be like when you start your own classroom. So, but your first official day will be when kids are in the class, in the seats. Staff development days after that count toward your days, but not leading up to. Okay? TEA now requires 70 days for clinical teaching. So you will count 70 days from your first day, school days. Staff development days count. Obviously, if there's a Columbus Day holiday, that doesn't count. So we will count those days up, and when you get your placement, we'll have your start date and your end date, assuming there are no absences. This past fall was crazy because we had hurricane. We had kids that were supposed to start on the 28th of August and didn't start till like the 11th of September. So they were literally working up until the week of graduation to get their days in. TEA did waive some of those days, so we were able to work with that, but they don't typically do that. If it's a day or two, like the bad weather this semester, those days haven't been waived by TEA, so the students are having to add those days on to the end of their semester. So just be thoughtful of that. Our attendance policy is like senior methods policy. If it's an excused absence, but if it's an unexcused, there is a consequence. We don't give you a letter grade, so there is no letter grade reduction. But instead of having a day to make up, you have 2 days to make up for unexcused absences. And you can have no more than 2 unexcused absences. So we follow the student rule 7. If you're sick, you go in, you say you're sick, you fill out the form, it notifies everybody that you're out, and however many days you miss, you make up that same number of days at the end of the semester. If your best friend's getting married and you're going to take a Friday to go to the rehearsal, that's great. That's unexcused. So that day you'll put in, you'll just add 2 days to the end of your semester for that day of absence. Okay? Any questions on attendance? Yes?
I just wanted to clarify that there will be some days.
Yes. So it'll probably be, have you counted, Mary, at all for any of the calendars? It'll probably be, if you start on the 13th or even on the 20th, you'll probably finish that week after Thanksgiving. And so you'll have a little wiggle room. And so unless you get really, really sick and you miss 3 weeks, then we would have to have a conversation. But the absences and the days required, that's not an A&M. That's not a clinical teaching office. TEA requires 70 days. It's gone from 60 to 65. Now they're at 70 required days in the field. All right, the application will be due 3 weeks from today, so on the 23rd at noon. So what we're going to do when we leave here, we're going to take your sign-in sheets and we're going to go through and mark who all came today, and then you're going to get an email with the link to the application. Okay? So you've got plenty of time to decide where you want to go and be thoughtful in making your request. If you want to just get on and look at it and know what you need to be thinking through before you actually start filling it out, it's totally fine. The list of all the districts are on your sign-in sheet, but we're going to keep that. But on the application, they're listed straight alpha. So we will meet again on Friday the 20th, but not in here. We'll be over at GSC. So you will get an email, multiple email reminders about that meeting. Yes? Yes. So the piece of paper copy, whatever you circle on there for your district, that's just to kind of give us a rough estimate of how many are staying here versus going off. That's not what we're going to use. We're not going to even go back to that after looking at it today. Your application will be what we will look at to determine where your application is sent. Yes?
What if we change our mind where we want to after? Are we allowed to do that?
Say that one more time.
So my parents live out in like far west Fort Worth.
Okay.
I would like to stay over on that side instead of commuting to Dallas and Fort Worth. And I just put a random district down for right now. Are we able to change that after, like, during the application?
So if you're willing to go to one of the districts that's on there that we already have a partnership agreement with, that's fine. If there's a district you want to go to that's not on the list, you need to stay. Yeah. Yes.
But you won't consider it, like, we shouldn't come if it's more than 35 miles from.
If it's less than 35 miles, yeah, we won't. We're not adding. We have 80 districts. We're not adding districts if they're within 35 miles. And that comes from the same thing for local. You could live in College Station, be placed in Franklin, and you may be driving 40 miles, but district to district is within that 35-mile range. So that's where the distance 35-mile range comes as well. Good question. Okay, the May 5th deadline, I know you've heard this, but I'm going to say it again because I was shocked at how many of you guys have not even attempted your first test. So if you get on today to register for your exam and you're a limited administration, so if you're a 4-8 student and you have not attempted your test, the next test for you is in March, okay? If you don't pass that test, you have to do remediation. The next test you will be able to take will be that May 5th weekend. So the most chances you have are 2. If you don't take care of your business, you may have 1 chance. So you've put yourself in a bad situation. So you need to get on that immediately and get registered for your exam, go through certified teacher, get very prepared because you don't want to be told May 10th or May 12th that you're not going to be moving into clinical teaching because of your exam. Okay? If your core subjects, it's given often, but you need to go ahead and register and get started on that exam because if you don't pass the first time, there are remediation steps. You don't get just approval to test again. Okay? Questions on the May 5th test? You're going to get an email from us next week with information if you haven't passed your test reminding you of that. Yes?
So if we think that we might want to teach at a district that's not listed, we shouldn't stay.
Yes. If there's any chance you want to be considered for a district that's not on the list and it's more than 35 miles, you have to stay today because there's more work that you have to provide or do and provide information to us. Yes. When you leave, but we're not done. Yeah. Yeah, that is what's going to guarantee that we know that you were here today and you're going to get an email from us today saying that you came. Yes.
Okay, so you said like we get to pick 3 spots. What if our first spot is on the list, but our second one's not on the list?
Then you need to go with your first and then have a different second or third.
Like, no, like out. I mean, what I mean is like it's out of 35 miles.
We're not going to set up a potential partnership if it's not your first choice. Yeah. And I would say 95% of first choices are going to get met. There are a few districts that have caps, but most of the districts are going to take as many Aggies as request to go, as long as you get in things on time. Yes?
How much are you going to fight for us to get like the spot we want?
You mean with a district or here local?
Either or.
Well, local, our office makes the placements, but it's totally dictated by mentor teachers wanting to host a student and meeting the requirements.
Like if I don't get the placement in like the district I want, like that means I won't do student teaching. So does that mean like if it's like an extenuation circumstance like that, will you make sure we're in that district? Or
I can't guarantee a district. What are you? Are you math? I don't know. I'm just guessing. Okay, so you're science.
I just know like I personally do not have the money to travel to these districts that are outside of my range. But if I go back home and live at home, I can do student teaching. But
And where's home? Where's home?
San Marcos.
Okay, so Comal is that,
I mean, where's Comal?
just south of San Marcos?
Like how many miles?
New Braunfels?
Is that?
Yeah, Comal ISD is New Braunfels. Yeah. So if you want to stay when this is over, I'm happy to try to answer
Okay.
more specific. Yeah. Okay, any other questions before we keep going? Yes. Correct. You only apply to us. We will do all the communicating with the district. If they send you information about criminal history clearance, things like that, you will take care of that through the district. Some districts require you to fill out another application specific to the district. They may require my signature, so you'll be in communication with both of us on things like that. Yeah, but the application comes straight to us. Yes? No, so you'll do our application. If you're potentially going to clinical teach, you need to set up like your clinical teaching, and then if you get an internship, you can just notify us. If you don't do the application though and then don't get an internship, you won't have either. So you need to plan this as your contingency. Yeah. Yes. I mean, there's always the potential to come back here. Default is always local. So if you select Frisco ISD and your housing arrangement falls through, local is the default to fall back. If you select Frisco and then you decide, ooh, I really want to move to Austin, and you tell us in May, I'd like to go to Leander, probably not going to happen because placements have been made. They've taken students from all the universities, and that's already been decided. That's why it's real important that your first choice is your ideal, and that's where the information is going to go. If that doesn't work, then we'll move on to your second and third, but that'll be sooner than later. But local is always an option. You can always come back here. Okay? Make sure that you have your calendar marked for our next meeting. Make sure you come in for advising. If you don't come in this week for advising coming up, then juniors start filling, and then sophomores window. So it's going to be harder to make appointments the longer you wait. The May 5th date, the application date, and then anything the school district needs from you. So all those things have to be done before you're going to ever get a placement from us that confirms where you're going to be, district, school, mentor teacher, all of that, and we'll talk about that at the April meeting. All right, our website, the application and certification information, that's not. Career fair. Any of y'all go to career fair last fall just to see it, see what it was about? Yes? So you have an idea. The spring event will be about twice as large. Lots more districts come in the spring because they're hiring more people for next school year. So if you're in senior methods, I think the expectation is that you come and just see it. We also have an opportunity for a scholarship to be a hostess at career fair, where you would be assigned to a set of districts and help them just kind of be their liaison that day. You'll help us the week before get ready for the event. The spring event's kind of crazy, and so we appreciate the help, but that scholarship would be applied toward your fall tuition. So if you're interested in the potential for that, there is an application. If you will write really large across the top of that sign-in sheet that you're going to turn into us, scholarship, career fair host, just write that real big. You'll get an email from us with an application. It just asks why you would deserve it, things like that. It's a short, quick application, but it's a great opportunity for this semester for you to get to know recruiters and meet district personnel. We've had a few students that have participated in this and gotten jobs because of the relationship they had during this event. And then when you come back as a clinical teacher for the event in the fall, you'll know people already. So really good opportunity. And if you're going to be interested in just kind of seeing what the event looks like from the spring, it's a huge event. So great opportunity to be in on the working side of it. Yes. Yes. You don't even actually record it. It's just a mandatory day. So you show up that day. You don't put an absence in. And we just add that day into your required days. Except we'll count that. When we give you your start and end date, we'll include career fair as part of that. Yeah, good question. Yes. I mean, ideally, we'll get placements from districts mid-May. Our hope always, and what we will do is we will send placements out by the mid to end part of May so that you have an opportunity to reach out to your assigned mentor teacher before the summer break. But there's potential that probably a tenth of y'all will still say pending. We won't have gotten details from the district. A lot of them have a hard time committing spring to fall because they know they're going to change maybe the makeup of the school, teachers are going to move around. They don't want to commit and say, you're for sure going to be with this teacher in third grade at this school because that teacher may get moved to second grade. And so sometimes they wait to kind of see the fallout, who retires, who they rehire, and how they move teachers around before they commit to a mentor teacher. But we will send placements for what we have out with time for you to contact your teacher before summer break. And then as placements come in after that, we'll send those out as we receive them. Yes. 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 So it'll for sure be after our second meeting because you have to come to that and then have all those other boxes checked. It'll be after the May 5th testing date as well. Yeah, good question. Okay, so career fair for this semester is Monday, April 9th. If you, I'm sure you'll hear more about that from your senior methods instructors as well. Our office is in Heaton Hall on the opposite side from where the advising office is. So if you need to swing by, email is the easiest way, but you're welcome to call as well. All right, questions before the large group dismisses. Once everybody comes to this meeting and has this information, you'll get an email to have access to what was shared today from everybody, from Misty and from Justin and from this part of the meeting. So, okay, no questions? Okay, if you're interested, 35 miles or more, come up here.